Welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about events in XAML. And there are things called rooted events or events called rooted events. And there are three types of rooted events: direct events, bubbling events, and tunneling events. We have seen a direct event already, and let's create that one again. So I'm going to go ahead and create a button here, and this button will simply have a content of click me. Very basic, and then it has a click event, and I'm going to create a new event handler here, and that's pretty much it. And also maybe we should create a width of 150 and a height of, let's say, 100. So it's a decently large button here. And now this button has a click event. Now a click event is a direct event. So let's have a look here. We can see that a new method was created for us. It's a private void button click method object sender rooted event args e. So it needs a sender, which is the object that sends this event, and this is our button itself. So the object button sends this event, and we could go ahead and use that button. And there are three events, as I said. The rooted event, or rooted events, are generally the events. Then there is a direct event, which is one of the rooted events, and that's our click event that we will check out in a second. Then there's the bubbling event and the tunneling event. So let's run this code now so you can see what a direct event is gonna do. And by the way, if we want to execute anything, we of course need to add a message box here just to show what's happening. Show something like button was clicked. And maybe add something like direct event. So direct event. Now let's run this again. And click on the button, and you see button was clicked direct event. We have used that one in the last video, and well, nothing new here, right? So this button is directly called, or the event of the button is directly called by the click property here. Now there is something called a bubbling event. Let's say you don't want the event to start off as soon as the user clicks on the button, but as soon as he releases the click. So as soon as the button or click goes up. So you can use something like mouse button or mouse up here. There's something called mouse up. So I'm going to create a new event handler for that. Let's go here and create this new event, which is also just going to show a message box here, and this one will say mouse button went up was released. So only once it's released, this event will be triggered. This button mouse up event will be triggered. So let's start that one again and click on the button. With the left click, nothing happens. If I do that with a right click, then suddenly something happens. And that has to do with this being a bubbling event. So mouse up is a bubbling event, which means that it sends this event towards the top of the hierarchy within the tree. So we have seen what a tree is, right? We have seen the visual tree and the logical tree. So in here, it goes up the visual tree. And as you know, the visual tree is much more than we can see in this logical tree here. So it's not just the window, the grid, and the button itself, but there is a lot more in between. And so this button sends it all the way up to all of the different tree elements that there are. Then it sends it to the grid, and then it sends it to the window. And if it's not handled anywhere, then nothing will happen. And that's what we have just seen. So if I press the mouse up, or if I release the mouse button, as you can see here, I'm clicking, I'm still holding, and once I release, nothing happens. And that has to do with the event being a bubbling event and it's just being ignored. As you could see, it worked with the right button, but it didn't work with the left button. So it was bubbling and it was caught by us. So how can you still handle this? Because now, well, it doesn't work with the left button, but you want it to work with the left button. What you can do is you can use a tunneling event. The bubbling event goes up the visual tree. The tunneling event goes down the visual tree. So Instead of using mouse up, I'm going to use something called preview mouse up. So as you can see, there are multiple different preview events here, plenty. And for example, the mouse down, mouse up, preview mouse right button down, right button up, and so forth. So I'm just going to create one for generally preview mouse up, so you can see that it's working either way. I'm going to create a new event handler for that, and I'm going to go ahead and add this message button in here. Was released, and this one will be the tunneling event. So that one here was the bubbling event, and now we are at the tunneling event. Now let's start it again, and there we are. Left click now, and as you can see, mouse button went up. Actually, to check, I'm going to click on it, holding it, and now I'm releasing, and then this event is triggered. Now with the left hand side as well, the right button as well, and it works as well. So what this preview does, it sends it towards the button itself, or towards it goes down the visual tree, so it's triggered straight away. So that's pretty cool. If you want to use preview mouse button up, then you're on the safe side, let's say, when you want to use this specific behavior. But then please consider also that this is not just the case for buttons. This is how WPF handles rooted events in general. So be careful here and use it in the right manner. Now, let's just, for a test purpose, go ahead and create a preview mouse left down and create a new handler. And now preview mouse right down, or actually right up. So just so you see that there are different types of ways. And in here, I'm going to use a new event handler as well. And now I'm just going to adjust the message box accordingly. So in the preview mouse left button down, I'm gonna say mouse button went down, was not released. This is a tunneling event, that's correct, and that's fine. And now the other one will be, actually this one is the left mouse button, and this one is the right mouse button. Right mouse button went up and is a tunneling event. And if we go ahead, we can see there's our button. If I press left click, as you can see, it's straight away triggered. Once I click it, even though if I keep it, if I hold the button, it's still triggered. And now the right button is only triggered once I release it. So just so you see that there are multiple different ways of handling events. You can even handle an event which is if we hover in, or if we get with our mouse inside of that button. But that's something that we'll handle later on. So now, just as a little recap, there are three different types of rooted events. There are the direct rooted events, the bubbling rooted events, and the tunneling rooted events. The direct ones, they handle the event themselves, e.g. the click event that we have seen. Then the bubbling event is sending it up the visual tree, and the tunneling event is sending it down the visual tree.